I was wondering what connects a difficult game about climbing, getting over it and only up. They are all challenging, frustrating and centered around reaching a goal at the top. But there is one thing they are not. They are not Christmas games. After all, climbing and chaos seem far removed from a holiday cheer. Before we dive into what might be the most cursed Christmas game ever, let's rewind to 2 weeks ago when the idea first came to my mind. And when I say idea, I mean that we will be just making things up, because I have no particular idea in my mind. Step 1 was to find a main character model, which would set the tone and style for the entire game. Fortunately for me, the search didn't take too long. As I stared at the model, I thought it could be funny to make the movement ragdoll based, ensuring every moment of gameplay would be both random and frustrating. With that in mind, I began adding joints to the Santa model. However, the process quickly became a nightmare. It turned out the issue was due to not locking the XYZ movement on certain parts of the model. After some trial and error, I realized the issue, and once I fixed that, things started coming together. At least, sort of. Connecting the joints felt like trying to piece together a human body without any anatomy knowledge. Apparently, Santa's spine was an entire saga, featuring original spine, spine 1 and spine 2, so I was connecting random elements to other random elements. After an hour of connecting joints and probably losing years of my life, I thought I had it figured out, but no. This was only the beginning of my festive nightmare. Eventually, I got him standing upright. Was it a proper posture? Not at all. But after injecting 3 cubes into his butt, he was finally kind of stable. Next came the movement system. And when I say movement, I don't necessarily mean walking in the traditional sense. I started with a simple script to control the character's motion, but soon realized that creating animations would require a second Santa model. This secondary model served as the base for animations, and I implemented a system where the rigid body would mimic the motions of the animated Santa. The limbs also seemed to rotate incorrectly, so I had to update my script to fix the orientation. Eventually though, I had a decent core mechanic. At this point, I shifted focus to making the game more visually appealing. By this, I mean I changed the sky material and implemented a smooth camera movement system. Then I added 2 more animations for left and right arm movements, allowing the player to grab things. I also implemented a jump, which was a little bit broken. Every time I hit the spacebar, Santa jumped twice. It was all feeling kind of buggy, but since we didn't have a lot of time, it was time to add stuff to our game and hope the issues would resolve themselves. I needed a simple level to test whether the movement and steering were actually fun. The broken jumping mechanic was making things more difficult than expected, so I fixed it. I redid the jumping animation one more time and made Santa land on his butt instead. Everything seemed to be working, so it was time to design more obstacles.
Oh no.
As you probably know, I have experience with Blender, so I quickly modeled a floating platform and imported it into Unity. I found a free water asset as well, and decided to give it a try. I also added low poly assets to create a lake surrounded by mountains, and a small village in the corner to give the level some life. First of the obstacles needed to be something simple, to make the player used to the steering mechanic. I added 2 bridges, one easy, and one which was much harder, mostly due to lack of left and right movement. Fortunately for me, fixing that was pretty quick. You cannot make a great game when you only have 2 types of items in it, bridges and spinning islands. Well, actually 3, I also had a ship asset. Finally, I added more items using some free asset packs to make the level more interesting and visually appealing. After changes the game looked better, but I definitely needed more obstacles. First of them is the lift, which basically allows the player to move from one place to another. There is no real difficulty in it, but it's kind of fun. With 3 obstacles now in place, I focused on improving the visuals. Step 1. Change the water color. Step 2. Install the post-processing package. Step 3. Spend an hour figuring out how it works. Step 4. Add color grading. Step 5. Realize it looks worse and remove it. The game looked better, so it was finally time for the new obstacle, an icy island. This one is not as technologically advanced as the lift, it's just an island with different colors and additional speed multiplayer. Now I had islands, rotating islands, icy islands and a lift. What's missing? Yeah, you are right. To keep things fresh, I added a double lift. I don't know what else I can say about it. It works exactly as a lift, but there are two lifts next to each other. Even though the double lift was already there, I still felt like something was missing. You might have noticed it too. I know most of you were thinking about a triple lift, but no. I decided to add snow particles and a boat script to make the boats move on the water slightly. To set a destination for the level, I added a city in the mountains, giving players something to aim for. Time for the next obstacle, a cannon. This one was pretty tricky, since there was no cannon in my asset pack. I found the trash bin, rotated it 90 degrees, and it worked perfectly. I even found some small Christmas ornaments and placed it around the cannon to make it more deadly. It was so good, I started wondering whether I should make a FIFA clone instead. Anyway, I made it more visually appealing, increased the power and added some particles, and voila, a perfect cannon. At this point there was still no audio in my game, so I added Christmas music and cannon shoot sound effect. Reassessing the level, I needed more. Falling islands. Basically, as some of you may already suspect, it's an island, but it falls down after a couple of seconds. With this many islands, you would think building levels would be easy, and it was. But I needed more, a perfect crossover, something that combines the best of two worlds. And here it is, the island lift. It works so well that I made both horizontal and vertical versions, then immediately combined them to create the double island lift. Now it is time to add something even more revolutionary. Trains. Yeah. Small trains that you have to avoid. To be honest, I was pretty happy with the results so far. Even though I had really enjoyed designing the level, I was slowly running out of time. Fortunately, the player was quite close to the final destination, so one more obstacle should do the job. I needed something that could move the player straight to the game's endpoint. A triple lift might have done the job, but since we hadn't introduced it earlier, it wouldn't make much sense to add it now. A wrecking glass ball seemed like the perfect solution. It functioned similarly to a lift, but looked different and was harder to grab. With this implemented, we were finally there. All I needed was the ending, which came to me quite naturally. The game could be confusing for potential players, so I quickly added a timer, player reset system, and a short help menu. You can play the game on the itch.io page linked in the description of this video. Remember the bugs I mentioned earlier that I hoped would resolve themselves? Well, they haven't. Occasionally the player might get stuck somewhere or jump higher than expected. There are also no checkpoints, so keep in mind, you are playing at your own risk. If you want more videos like this, feel free to hit the like and subscribe buttons. See you in 6 months.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho.